Have you ever wondered why certain women seem to carry a peace that no storm can steal? Why they walk into a room and bring light even when the world tries to dim it? It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's a divine signature. Being blessed by God doesn't mean life is free of challenges. In fact, many women blessed by God have walked through fire. But instead of smelling like smoke, they come out with wisdom, grace, and strength that inspires others. Today, I want to share with you 5 powerful signs that you are a woman blessed by God. As you listen, I want you to reflect on your own life. Because sometimes we don't realize we are walking miracles until someone holds up the mirror. You carry peace in the middle of chaos. A woman blessed by God is not defined by the absence of trouble, but by the presence of peace in the storm. You see, peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's a deep knowing that God is in control, even when everything else feels out of control. There is something almost unexplainable about the kind of peace that can exist when everything around you feels uncertain. It is not the peace you find on a quiet beach or during a calm morning with your coffee. That kind of peace is easy. Anyone can have it when the world is silent and nothing is demanding their attention. The peace I am talking about is different. It is the peace that stays with you when you get the phone call you were dreading, when the bank account is lower than it has ever been, when the diagnosis is not what you wanted to hear. It is the kind of peace that shows up not because life is gentle, but because your trust in God is stronger than the storm. When you carry peace in the middle of chaos, you become a steady presence, not only for yourself, but for everyone around you. People begin to look at you differently. They wonder why you are not panicking when everything else says you should. They wonder why you still speak with kindness when life has given you reasons to be bitter. This is not about pretending everything is fine. It is not about ignoring reality. It is about choosing to stand on something solid when everything else is shaking. I once met a woman who embodied this so perfectly. She had lost her husband unexpectedly. In a matter of weeks, her entire world shifted. There were bills to pay, children to raise, and decisions she never imagined making alone. And yet, in the middle of the chaos, there was a light in her eyes. She was not smiling every moment. She cried often. But underneath it all, she carried a peace that could not be explained by circumstances. That peace did not erase her pain, but it gave her the ability to move through it without being consumed. This kind of peace is not something you stumble upon. It is something you choose and nurture. You choose it when you decide not to let fear write the ending of your story. You choose it when you stop chasing answers and start trusting the process. You choose it when you allow God to be your anchor, instead of letting the storm decide where you drift. Carrying peace in chaos also changes the way you see challenges. Instead of viewing them as punishments, you begin to see them as seasons where you grow in strength and character. You realize that if the peace inside you does not depend on the calm outside you, then no one and nothing can take it away. This is the kind of peace that gives you clarity when the noise around you tries to confuse you. It is the peace that lets you make wise decisions instead of rush ones. It also draws people to you. They will not always tell you, but they notice. They notice the way you respond instead of react. They notice how your words seem to bring comfort when they themselves are overwhelmed. And sometimes, your peace becomes the thing that helps them find their own. In that way, peace is contagious. When you carry it, you pass it on without even realizing it. In your own life, think about the storms you have faced. Maybe there were moments when you felt anything but peaceful. Maybe you let fear or frustration take over. But also remember the moments when, even if for a short while, you felt that stillness inside you that nothing could shake. That was not weakness. That was strength wrapped in surrender. That was God reminding you that His presence is not tied to the weather of your circumstances. Peace in chaos does not mean you will never feel worry. It means worry will not be the driver of your life. It means that even when your heart races and your mind tries to run ahead, you come back to the truth that you are not alone. And when you live from that place, you become a living example of what it looks like to be blessed beyond what the world can see. You are protected from people and opportunities that aren't for you. One of the most misunderstood blessings from God is protection. Sometimes, God's no is the most loving thing He can give you. Think about it. That relationship you thought you couldn't live without, it ended. That job you prayed for, you didn't get it. Months later, you realized that what you thought was rejection was actually redirection. There are moments in life when doors close, and you do not understand why. You prepared, you prayed, you gave everything you had, and still it did not happen. The friendship faded, the relationship ended. The job you thought was perfect slipped away. In the moment, it feels like loss. It feels like rejection. But with time and perspective, you begin to see it differently. What felt like a painful ending was actually a layer of protection you did not know you needed. Being protected from people and opportunities that are not meant for you is one of the clearest signs of God's blessing. Yet it is also one of the hardest to accept in the moment. We often measure blessings by what we gain, but some of the greatest blessings come from what we never had to endure. Not every person who wants to be close to you is meant to stay. Not every opportunity that looks good on the surface will be good for your soul. When God removes something from your path, it is not always about punishment or failure. Sometimes it is about keeping you aligned with your purpose. Think about a time you wanted something so badly that you were willing to overlook the warning signs. Maybe it was a relationship that seemed perfect at first, but slowly began to reveal cracks. Maybe it was a job offer that promised prestige and financial security, but came with compromises that would have eroded your values. In those moments, it is easy to confuse letting go with giving up. But when you are being divinely protected, letting go is not defeat. It is strategy. I remember meeting a woman who had been building her career for over a decade. She was offered what seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime. A high-paying position in a respected company. She prayed over it, prepared for it, and even started imagining her life in this new role. Then, out of nowhere, the offer was withdrawn. She was devastated. She questioned everything. But a year later, the company was exposed in a massive scandal, and hundreds of employees lost their jobs overnight. What looked like a devastating rejection had actually been a shield keeping her from disaster. Protection is not always obvious. Sometimes it shows up as a relationship that ends before you are ready. Sometimes it is a business deal that falls through at the last moment. Sometimes it is simply a lack of clarity that prevents you from saying yes to something too soon. It rarely feels like a gift in the moment, but it becomes clear over time that what God withholds is just as important as what He gives. Being blessed with protection also means your energy is preserved for the right people and the right opportunities. Every yes you give takes time, attention, and emotional investment. When you say yes to something not meant for you, you are not only taking on unnecessary weight, you are also delaying the right things that are waiting for space in your life. The truth is, not everyone who enters your life has the capacity to walk with you to your next season. Some connections are seasonal, meant to teach you something, help you grow, or guide you for a short distance. The same goes for opportunities. Some are stepping stones, others are distractions. Discernment is knowing which is which. And that discernment is sharpened when you trust the protection you cannot always see. When you are protected in this way, you do not waste years trying to make something work that was never built for you. You do not tie your worth to someone's decision to leave. You do not chase after what is running from you. Instead, you learn to believe that every closed door is making room for one that will open to something better. Living with this mindset changes the way you handle disappointment. You stop seeing it as the end of the story. You start seeing it as part of a bigger story being written for you. And in that shift, you find peace, patience, and the unshakable belief that what is meant for you will never pass you by. You have a resilient spirit. Blessed women bend, but they don't break. You've been through disappointments, heartbreaks, and maybe even seasons of loss. But here you are, still standing. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about always rising again. And a woman blessed by God has a strength that comes from knowing she's never fighting alone. Resilience is not built in moments of comfort. It is formed in the seasons when life feels like it has pushed you to the very edge, when everything you counted on shifts beneath your feet, and you are faced with a choice. You can either stay down or find the strength to stand again. A resilient spirit does not mean you never break. It means that even when you are cracked, even when you feel like you have nothing left, something deep inside refuses to let the story end here. Life has a way of testing this in all of us. For some, it comes through loss. For others, through failure or betrayal. And yet, the women who rise from these moments carry a strength that no one can give them and no one can take away. They have walked through fire and learned that while the flames can change you, they do not have to destroy you. They know that scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof you survived. I think of a woman I once met who had every reason to quit. Her business collapsed after years of hard work. Her marriage ended in the same year. Friends she thought would be there disappeared when she needed them most. For months, she battled with exhaustion, fear, and uncertainty. But every day, she made the decision to take one small step forward. Some days it was as simple as getting out of bed. Other days it was applying for a single opportunity or making one phone call. Slowly, those small steps became momentum. Today, she runs a thriving nonprofit that helps other women rebuild their lives. Her resilience did not come from avoiding pain. It came from facing it head on and refusing to stay in the same place. Resilience changes the way you respond to setbacks. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you begin to ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of seeing a failure as the end, you see it as feedback, a signpost pointing you in a new direction. It does not mean you are immune to disappointment. It means disappointment no longer has the power to define you. A resilient spirit is rooted in the understanding that you are not alone in the fight. There is a deeper strength that carries you when yours runs out. It is knowing that even if today feels heavy, it does not mean tomorrow will be the same. It is believing that you can start again even after everything has fallen apart. Resilience also inspires others. People watch how you handle difficulty. They notice when you get back up after being knocked down. Your quiet persistence becomes a source of courage for those who feel like giving up. Without realizing it, your story becomes a map for someone else who is lost in their own storm. There is a hidden power in resilience. When you survive something you thought would break you, you start to see yourself differently. You realize that you are stronger than you ever imagined. You stop doubting your ability to handle what comes next because you have already faced worse and made it through. That confidence is not loud or arrogant. It is steady and unshakable. In your own life, resilience might look like rebuilding after a dream falls apart. It might mean forgiving when it would be easier to hold on to resentment. It might be finding hope in a season that feels hopeless. Whatever form it takes, it is proof that you have not been defeated. You may have been delayed, detoured, or even knocked to your knees, but you are still here. And that is the beauty of a resilient spirit. It does not promise an easy life. It promises that no matter how hard it gets, you will not be the same person who started the journey. You will be stronger, wiser, and more certain of the fact that nothing can truly stop a woman who refuses to quit. You lift others without losing yourself. A woman blessed by God is like a well. She gives, but she's also filled. She doesn't pour from an empty cup because she knows her source never runs dry. It's in your nature to encourage, mentor, and support. But here's the blessing: you do it without losing your own identity. You don't have to dim your light for others to shine. There is a rare kind of strength in being able to lift others while still standing firm in who you are. Many people give until they are empty. They pour themselves into everyone else's needs and then wonder why they feel drained, unappreciated, or even resentful. But a woman who is truly blessed understands that helping others should not mean losing herself in the process. She knows that to keep giving, she must also keep filling her own cup. Lifting others without losing yourself begins with knowing your value. When you understand your worth, you no longer seek validation from the act of giving. You help because it aligns with who you are, not because you need people to see you as kind or selfless. This allows you to serve from a place of abundance instead of desperation. Your kindness is not a transaction. It is an overflow of a healthy, grounded heart. I think of a nurse I once met who worked long hours in a busy hospital. She cared for patients with a level of compassion that could not be faked. She listened to their fears, celebrated their small victories, and comforted families in their darkest moments. But she also knew her limits. When her shift ended, she went home, turned off her phone, and spent time with her own family. She understood that to show up fully at work, she needed to protect her time and energy away from it. She was deeply giving without allowing her identity to be consumed by her role. When you lift others without losing yourself, you set boundaries that protect your energy. You know that saying yes to everything is not love. It is depletion. You learn that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no, because a yes that comes from guilt or exhaustion helps no one in the long run. You do not confuse being needed with being valued. Instead, you invest in relationships and causes where your presence makes a real difference, not just where it fills a temporary gap. This way of living also keeps you from falling into the trap of comparison. When you are confident in your own path, you can celebrate someone else's success without feeling like it diminishes your own. You can mentor, guide, and encourage without secretly keeping score. You can applaud others without needing the spotlight for yourself. That kind of generosity is pure, and it comes from knowing there is enough purpose, joy, and opportunity for everyone. The impact of this is greater than you might realize. People trust you more when they see you give without losing yourself. They sense that your help is not about control or obligation, but about genuine care. They know that when you say yes, it is because you truly want to be there, not because you feel forced. This makes your presence more powerful. It makes your influence deeper. In your own life, lifting others without losing yourself might mean choosing to help in ways that align with your strengths. It might mean mentoring someone in your field, volunteering for a cause that lights you up, or simply being a steady friend who listens without judgment. But it also means recognizing when you are running low and allowing yourself to step back and recharge. When you live like this, your life becomes a well that never runs dry. You can give generously without fear of emptiness because you are connected to the source that fills you again and again. The people you help do not just receive your resources or advice, they receive your best self. And in giving that, you create ripples of change that go far beyond what you can see. Lifting others without losing yourself is not just a skill. It is a way of living that honors both your calling and your capacity. It ensures that your light stays bright enough to guide others without burning you out in the process. You have a sense of purpose bigger than yourself. This might be the clearest sign of all. Blessed women live with a mission that's bigger than just personal gain. Your career, your family, your relationships, they're all channels for something deeper. You know you're here for a reason. Even when life takes unexpected turns, you see it as part of a bigger plan. There comes a moment in life when you realize that your existence cannot be measured only by what you accumulate, achieve, or experience for yourself. Something deep inside begins to whisper that you were created for more than just meeting your own needs. A sense of purpose bigger than yourself changes the way you wake up in the morning and the way you see the world around you. It becomes the compass that guides your decisions, the fuel that keeps you going when motivation fades, and the quiet assurance that your life matters beyond the boundaries of your own story. When you live with this kind of purpose, you stop asking only what the world can give you and start asking what you can give to the world. Your career, your relationships, your talents, everything becomes a channel for something greater. You begin to measure success not by how comfortable you are, but by how much impact you are making. The idea of leaving things better than you found them stops being a nice thought and starts becoming your way of life. I remember meeting a woman who had spent years climbing the corporate ladder. She had the salary, the respect, and the security she once dreamed of. But one day, she looked around and realized she was not fulfilled. She was winning by the world's standards, but her heart was restless. She began volunteering at a shelter for young women escaping abuse. It started with a few hours on weekends. Eventually, she left her job to lead the organization full-time. She told me that for the first time in her life, she felt alive. Her sense of purpose had shifted from building her own success to rebuilding the lives of others. A purpose bigger than yourself also gives meaning to your struggles. When you face challenges, you no longer see them as random or pointless. Instead, you start to understand how they shape you for the work you are meant to do. The heartbreaks you endured, the mistakes you made, the battles you fought, they all become tools you can use to help someone else. Your pain becomes part of someone else's healing. This kind of purpose is not always grand or public. It might be raising children who will go on to change the world in ways you may never see. It might be running a small business that treats people with dignity in a world that often doesn't. It might be creating art, music, or writing that touches people's hearts in quiet, but lasting ways. The size of the stage does not determine the size of the purpose. What matters is the intention behind it and the lives it touches. Living with a purpose bigger than yourself also demands courage. It will require you to make decisions that others might not understand. You may have to walk away from comfort or certainty. You may have to keep going when it feels like progress is slow. But the beauty of purpose is that it pulls you forward even when the road is unclear. It reminds you that your life is part of something unfolding far beyond what you can see right now. In your own life, you might already feel that pull. Maybe you have been through experiences that have prepared you to serve in ways you never imagined. Maybe you have passions and gifts that have been sitting quietly, waiting for you to use them. Or maybe you are in the middle of discovering what your purpose is. Wherever you are, know that living for something bigger than yourself will never be wasted. When you align your life with a higher purpose, everything changes. Your work becomes more than a job. Your relationships become more than connections. Your days become more than routines. You begin to see yourself as a steward of the time, resources, and opportunities you have been given. And in that shift, you discover the kind of fulfillment that comfort alone can never provide,